Imagine this. A single Russian missile lands on the territory of a NATO country, not in Ukraine, but in Poland, Romania, or the Baltic states. Was it an accident? Was it a test? Or was it the start of World War III? What would NATO do? Would the United States and Russia suddenly find themselves in a direct war? In this video, we are going to look at how a NATO versus Russia war could actually start, who has more power, and why most leaders are terrified of this scenario. This is TrendScope Global. If you want clear, simple explanations of global conflicts and military power, watch till the end and subscribe for more. Let's start with a basic question. What is NATO? NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, is a military alliance of more than 30 countries in Europe and North America. Its core idea is simple. If you attack one member, you attack all of them. This is written in Article 5 of the NATO Treaty. So, if Russia attacked Poland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, or any other NATO country, in theory the United States, Britain, France, Germany, and the rest are all supposed to respond. On the other side is Russia. Russia is not as rich as the combined NATO countries, but it is still a major military power. It has a large army, powerful air defenses, thousands of tanks and artillery pieces, and most importantly, one of the biggest nuclear arsenals in the world. Right now, Russia is already fighting a large war in Ukraine. NATO countries are not officially in that war, but they are sending weapons, ammunition, intelligence, training, and money to Ukraine. So the big fear is this. Could the Ukraine war somehow turn into a direct Russia versus NATO war? How could that happen? There are several possible paths. First, accident and miscalculation. Modern wars are chaotic. Missiles can go off course. Electronic jamming can confuse radars. In a fast-moving situation, a missile fired at Ukraine could accidentally land in a NATO country next door. If people are killed on NATO soil, governments are under huge pressure to do something. Maybe they send fighter jets to shoot down more missiles. Maybe they strike back at the launch site. Russia could then see this as an attack on its own forces and respond. Step by step, without anyone planning it, a limited war could spiral into a direct Russia versus NATO conflict. Second, there is the risk of intentional escalation. If Russia believes NATO is pushing too hard, or if NATO believes Russia is about to win a major victory, one side might try to send a stronger message. That could mean attacking supply lines, bases, or intelligence centers that are technically outside Ukraine, but inside NATO countries. That would be extremely dangerous. Now, let's imagine the worst-case scenario. A direct war between NATO and Russia. Who has more power? On paper, NATO is much stronger in conventional, non-nuclear forces. The combined NATO countries have a much larger total economy, more advanced air forces and navies, better logistics and global supply chains, far greater industrial capacity to build weapons and ammunition. The United States alone spends more on defense than Russia by a huge margin. Add in the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Turkey, Italy, and others, and NATO looks very powerful. Russia, however, has some serious advantages. It is fighting close to home, not across an ocean. It has large land forces and lots of experience in hard, bloody wars. Its air defense systems and missile forces are strong, especially near its borders. And again, it has thousands of nuclear weapons. So what would the first days of a NATO-Russia war look like? In Europe, the main front would likely be in Eastern Europe and around the Baltic region. NATO aircraft and missiles would try to destroy Russian air defenses, command centers, and supply lines. Russian forces would try to hit NATO air bases, ports, and logistics hubs. Cyber attacks would target power grids, communications, and banking systems on both sides. Satellites could be jammed or even attacked, making it harder to navigate and communicate. Very quickly, both sides would suffer heavy losses in planes, ships, and soldiers. But here's the real problem. Neither side could afford to lose completely. If Russia felt that it was about to be crushed by NATO, it might consider using nuclear weapons to force NATO to stop. If NATO thought Russia was about to overrun key allies, some leaders might also think about extreme options. Most nuclear war plans talk about limited nuclear strikes at first. For example, using a small nuclear weapon against a military base, a naval group, or a remote area to send a warning. But once even one nuclear weapon is used, everything changes. The other side might answer with a bigger strike. Then the first side responds again. Very quickly, what started as limited could become unlimited. Major cities in Europe, North America, and Russia could be hit. Hundreds of millions of people could die. The environment, agriculture, and global economy would be damaged for decades. In that kind of NATO versus Russia war, there is no winner. Not Russia, not the United States, not Europe. Everyone loses. This is why, even during very tense moments, both NATO and Russia are extremely careful. They set red lines. They use hotlines and back-channel communication. They sometimes allow small incidents to pass without a big response, just to avoid triggering something huge by mistake. So, could NATO and Russia go to war? Yes, it is possible. Accidents, miscalculations, political pressure, and fear can all push leaders into dangerous decisions. But would anyone truly win that war? In a full NATO versus Russia conflict, especially if nuclear weapons are used, the honest answer is no. The real goal for both sides is not to win World War III. The real goal is to avoid World War III. What do you think? Do you believe Russia and NATO can keep this conflict limited to Ukraine, or is a direct clash only a matter of time? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. I read as many as I can. If this video helped you understand the risk of a NATO versus Russia war more clearly, please like this video, share it with a friend, and subscribe to TrendScope Global for more simple explanations of military power and global politics. Turn on the notification bell so you do not miss our next deep dive. This is TrendScope Global. Stay informed. Stay aware. See you in the next video.